I'm like, you're not gonna hit me anymore. And it was just like I was just done with that. And you could see his face. It was like he didn't know what else to do because
Mm.
if violence wasn't going to strike fear into me anymore, then that was it. He had no control over me anymore because we had no real relationship. There was no relationship
Okay.
where he could sit down and talk to me and have that kind of. But I think it's because, or I know it is because he didn't have that. His father
Hmm.
was, I can't even imagine what my grandfather was being in Cuba and stuff like that. And yeah, the situation is completely different. But regardless, my dad probably never had a father who sat down and was like, "Hey, let me talk to you about something." That's never happened to me in my life, and I know it's never happened to him. So he's not going to know how to do that. So yeah, he literally kicked me out of my house, and that was it. 17, I never saw to take their life because of a partner. It should never be that serious. Mine was just that I couldn't control my thoughts. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't literally turn off even if I was in an environment with people around me that were great people trying to distract me, I would forget for a little bit. And then before I know, I'm back on it again. So it was actually the ability to not be able to control my own brain that made me want
Okay.
to.
Who's been your biggest supporter, your ride or die, over all these years, coming and going? Who's been there for you the most? That's the one single person that's been your ride or die
Mm,
through your dark
Aceto.
times, good times.
Yeah, Aceto. That's easy.
Aceto.
But
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. He's the first person I called when I got out of jail. Yeah, people don't know at the New York Pro. I was so broke, bought a one-way ticket to New York. I had no idea I was going to get back, and all that, and which I've talked about before. But people also don't know that I was just losing my mind on the floor of the hotel room because I was just so stressed out. And Aceto had like called the hotel room, and I was like taking a nap. I passed out, and then he couldn't get up because I put the hotel room in my friend's name, so he couldn't even find out what room it is. So either way, he had to go back to his hotel room, and then he called me and he yelled at me. It was the first time I've ever heard Aceto yell. It was so. But I
Yes.
wanted to say that I really respect your show
Thank you.
because I think also, like I said with Jay, you're not doing any kind of gotcha questions, and you
No.
really do follow the people that you have on the show. I've noticed that you ask questions to them like you had with me where it kind of
Yeah.
catches them off guard because
Yeah.
most of the time we get the same question and I
Hmm.
hate it. I want to be respectful on shows because I don't want to say like I already talked about that on another show. But when I watch the shows and it's like, oh my God, he's going to start talking about this again. Sometimes I'm like fast forwarding,
Yeah.
and I hate
Yeah.
that people are going to do that with me because everybody wants to talk about Dubai and everybody wants to talk about my dad. So I just wanted to say that in your shows,
Mm.
I really realized, especially like with mine,
Mm.
you're asking things that you can only ask if you're really a fan. And
Yes.
I appreciate you.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Muscle Discord. And we got a very special guest on the show, Sergio Olivia Jr. Man, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Matt.
Thanks for coming on. And yeah, so I'm just going to jump right into the questions. I always ask these questions at the beginning of the interview, very basic. What's your current age, height, and what was your last weight on stage at the Cali Pro?
Uh, 39, 5'11". That last show was such a mess.
Yeah.
I don't even think we weighed ourselves, but the show before that, I was 285. So
Okay, shit.
I would say the same.
285 on stage.
That was when
Damn.
I did the Arnold last and the Reno. hmm
Okay. Shit. Okay, that's heavy. I didn't realize it was that heavy on stage, which is one of the heaviest pros on the stage, and for sure. Like most guys are in the 260s, 270s, 285.
Yeah,
Is
but
up there.
that doesn't really mean anything. I
No.
honestly, I probably could have knocked off 8 pounds and been in
Okay.
better shape. But yeah, that's around
Okay.
the weight.
Okay. And yeah, speaking of that, so your last shows were the 2021 Legion Sports Fest Pro, where you placed third, and then most recent 2023 Cali Pro, you placed first. And let's
No,
just speak a
third,
little. Oh, sorry, third. Yes,
third,
sorry, not first.
third.
Third. And let's just talk about a little bit what happened there. Sean Clarita won that. I think Regan came in second,
The
and you
Reno
came in.
show.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
And so what do you think happened there with your look? You know, that's a show that you technically should have won with your structure and everything. But What happened?
Um, well, I had just did the Arnold right before that, the one that Nick won, his first one. And I don't know why going into that show, probably because of my other shows. I always had like small man syndrome, and usually I do have to eat a lot of uh cakes and muffins and stuff like that to pump up before a show. And that's one thing that I learned at that show is now that I am weighing a good amount, I don't need all that excess to carb up. So I spilled over big time on that show. So the Legion show was just it wasn't even going to qualify for that Olympia that year. It was just I don't know why Clarita did it or Regan, but I wanted to do it because I realized too there was a lot of foods that I wasn't able to digest that I'd used my whole career. So I really wanted to do one more show, not end on that kind of slop um, mess that I was. So we wanted to try and clean it up a little bit, and then I wanted to, because like when you do shows, some people don't understand. You can't test things out sometimes until the day of the show.
Yeah.
You can do like a mock prep or a mock peak and stuff like that, but it's not the same. So I really wanted to try completely different carbs to carb up, and we were a lot leaner. My waist was a lot better. My waist
Mhm.
was really bad at that Arnold, and so that was just kind of to get on stage and to do that. To make sure that we do have the formula, Aceto and I, and it was good. It was just look, Clarita's fucking Clarita,
Yeah.
and he's incredible. And Regan, that was probably his best show up to date. He was really
Mhm.
good. Um, I probably would actually put Regan in first at that show. I think it was kind of really cool and exciting to see for the first time a 212 guy beat. I mean,
Yeah.
Regan's besides Samson, I think he's the tallest on
Yeah.
stage, so he took out two really tall people, which was really exciting. But the amount of muscle uh, that even Regan has, it definitely should have been rewarded. So I definitely could have tossed it up either way. But for me, it wasn't my best. I had looked better when I did the Arnold the year before. So there was nothing I was upset about.
Okay.
They beat me when I wasn't my best. But that was it. And then that was that show. And then I left after that.
Yeah. So you left after. Did you go straight to Dubai, or did you go anywhere else prior to that? To that?
No, I just went back to San Diego, and then it was probably yeah, because it was rough for a while. After that Legion show, my like Instagram disappeared. It wasn't one of those hacks,
Hmm.
where people tricked people. And obviously I didn't post anything to get it taken down. It was really weird. I got this message saying I had to restart my Instagram, and then when I did, my whole account was gone. Like it wasn't even
Yeah.
like where you can even find me. So that was just a rough time because no one hates social media more than me, but it was a slap in the face in reality of um, what's important in today's day.
Mhm.
So me losing sponsors and just trying to figure all that out, trying to find all these side people to try and pay to get my Instagram back. So either way, from after Reno, I was just focused on that. I switched sponsors. I was with Project AD. So it was kind of just like personal and business stuff in that meantime. And then after I was able to uh, get my Instagram back, only because I went to the Arnold. It's so crazy because I did my own supplement company a few years ago,
Mhm.
and we were supposed to launch at the 2020 Arnold, and that was the Arnold that the expo was canceled. So they
Okay.
gave everybody who pre-bought a booth and stuff like that, they gave you like X amount of money and then like 2 years a booth for free. So
Okay.
I didn't even want to go to the Arnold that year,
Yeah.
but I had that booth for my supplement company and my clothing line. So I was like, all right, I'll go. But I had to work for Project AD. But I'm glad I went because it was actually there that I met somebody randomly doing an event at the Bullfrog Nutrition there that they do every
Mhm.
year. And he's like, oh, I know somebody who can fix your Instagram. And then, like, boom, within a week, it was fit. So I'm really
Wow.
glad that I went, got that back because that was really rough. But I'm glad that it happened because it really showed you too who really cares about you, who really supports you, and who really just wants you for whatever that magical number on your Instagram is. So
Yeah.
after that, I was just like, I need to go get away, not only catch back up to everybody who's now surpassed me, but I need to surpass them. So I
Yeah.
figured like, hey, let me go to like a Kuwait version, which is less strict and
Did they ever reach out to you to quit? Did the camel crew? Did anyone out there in Oxygen Gym?
When when I was getting ready for the New York Pro, I was training with Cormier because I knew Cormier when I lived in Chicago. He was in Wisconsin. Sometimes I would drive there and meet him. So he'd been trying to get me to go for a while. And then they officially wanted me to come out that year that I was prepping for the New York Pro. And this is exactly what I said. And it made them upset and it made Cormier upset. Is I said, this is my first pro show. If I now, my whole life, I'm not going to get a pro card because my dad's name or whatever. And then if I get my pro card, it's only because of my dad's name. So now here I am getting ready for my first pro show. I just wanted to do it on my own. If I
Yeah,
went out to Kuwait and stayed there and then came back and won the New York, which I did, no, everybody would have just been like, it would have just been because of that. And the same way that I did my first show, I wanted to do my first show complete by myself, natural, literally just didn't drink water for like 2 days. I didn't, I wanted to do it the hardest way possible. So that way I can see if I really want to do this. So my first pro show, I'm still trying to figure out like, like is this because it's one thing to do this as a hobby and it's one thing to do it almost for the rest of your
yeah,
adult life. So I wanted to do the show by myself, so I stayed and I didn't go, and it worked out. But yeah, I think after that they were definitely not going to reach out again, which honestly I wouldn't have went out to Kuwait anyway. Everyone I
yeah,
talked to who went to Kuwait, every single person besides Brandon Curry said that Kuwait was just horrible.
yeah. You're totally different lifestyle out there. It's people think it's glamorous. They pay for everything. They accommodations, everything's taken care of for you. But that's it. You can't do anything else. It's like just not much to do. So you definitely,
Yeah, which is okay. I'm okay with
yeah,
not doing anything. I mean,
yeah,
if anything, my favorite thing to do is just stay on regimen. The
grind.
problem is I don't like anyone kind of like taking credit for
Okay,
things, and it's hard not to do. If I brought somebody to my house here in Vegas and I
yeah,
paid for all your gear, all your food, gave you the best, gym and massages and everything, I am gonna say, hey, your win is because of me. So
yeah,
looking back, I'm really glad that I didn't, because I won that show, and it's probably
yeah,
the only thing that people can't give credit to anyone else. But I met Bader in Dubai, so
hmm,
since then, there's not any kind of animosity or anything like
okay,
that. I really respect him.
okay. So you ended up in Dubai and you're training out there. And I watched a little bit of the Cutler cast, so I got a little bit up to speed as kind of what happened there. Um, and then you had that tragic accident, okay. And I think that was the beginning of the kind of the end of Dubai. And I just wanted to kind of touch base a little bit more on when you were in jail in Dubai for a week. What you have all this time, you're just sitting there doing nothing. What was in your head? What was in your mind? Were you just thinking I'm going to get out of here and it's going to be fine, or is this do I want to do bodybuilding after this anymore, or like what did you do to motivate yourself to get through that?
No, yeah, there's nothing in my life that's making me ever feel like this isn't for me.
Mhm.
So it didn't change my perception of bodybuilding and where I'm at. If anything, it was the best I was ever looking.
Mhm.
So I would have never thought about stopping bodybuilding. But honestly, thank God they lied to me so horribly that I actually believed them and I thought I was getting out tomorrow and then tomorrow and then tomorrow. And
Okay.
it was just for a week. So I only actually was just thinking in 24 hours gaps.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, looking back, if they would have said, "Hey, it's going to be a week," then your mind is just going nuts.
Yeah.
And it was only a week. It was only a week. We didn't talk about this on the Cutler show. Is it was so I paid that money that I was saying on his show to allow me to travel to show that I was going to come back. When I came back and finally went to court and finally everything was done and it was just over with, that's when they told me that I was supposed to have stayed in jail that whole time. So it would have been from February to July. So that's wild to think that if I would have just listened to that other sponsor who was telling me don't pay that money to whoever that was, yeah, I would have did a good 6 months in that thing, and
Jeez.
then we'd be having a completely different conversation because I would have my body wants to go back to being skinny. I probably would have
Mhm.
lost 100 pounds, in there. I don't know if you remember or your fans do,
Mhm.
when Victor got locked up. Victor went to go do the
Yes.
Brazil, Arnold, and then some kind of visa issue, they put him in jail. When he got out, he looked like he was natty, lost
Yeah.
everything. But that's why he's my favorite bodybuilder, because he bounced back from that,
He
and I think
did.
he won another show. He won another show after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you get through that. You get out. Do you mind me asking, like, what did you have to pay if you're open to telling about that? Like, is it an
oh
exorbitant
no,
amount
I
of
thought
money, or was it,
I
or did
thought I
you,
said it
oh,
on the color show. I'm sorry. No, no, it was. I mean, it was $10,000.
okay.
So it wasn't nothing. But that was just to get out whoever that I paid. So I never
Okay.
got that back. I never got that back.
Yeah.
But the blood money, which is what I had to pay to allow me to leave the country, so they could
Wow.
hold. Because that's what I was saying on his show, for people that haven't didn't watch it,
Yeah.
is they have this law that you can't leave because your insurance company has to pay in kind of like an accident fault thing. So
Yeah.
it's same thing in the States. They're going to take forever. So I ended up just paying it myself. I got it back because
Okay.
that was just to hold, but that was
Yeah.
50K.
Wow. Jesus, man. So, and you've been talking about this too. You've been going through a lot of things in your life, and we're going to get more deep into it first. I just kind of want to go through more of the competition stuff before we kind of get into the more deep personal stuff and how you've been dealing with it and getting through it. So after Dubai, you were like, okay, I got to get out of here. You end up in Spain. And so how did you end up in Spain? I think you were talking to Cormier about Spain or something like that, and then you just ended up there. So just elaborate a little bit
It
on
was
that.
it was just actually a friend that I had when I lived in Venice. When I lived in Venice for a while, when I was training with Sean Roden. He was just one of those guys that was just at the gym every day in Golds. And then he was in Dubai, randomly enough, and then we were literally having a conversation. I I wasn't even supposed to be at the gym. It's just so crazy how life's supposed to happen. I never trained at the gym early. I happened to be up there early because I think I was dropping my girl off somewhere, and I went to just do cardio or something. And then I ran into him, and I was telling him, like, just ever since this has happened, I just don't feel safe, and I don't like it here, because I still have no idea who my friend got in that car and paid that money to. It's
Hmm.
not even like it was like through the system. So I was just like, I want to get out of here. And we were talking about Dorian being in Spain, and I was saying how I wanted to get on my Spanish. That's something that I wanted to practice. So it literally was that. It was only just because I was at that gym that time, ran into him, somebody that I trusted, and because he knew I lived in San Diego, he was like, Marbella, Spain, Marbella
Hmm.
is exactly like San Diego, and that's really the only reason. So I went, checked
Yeah.
out the area, made sure it was cool, and Dorian being there was enough.
Yeah, man, to have the opportunity to train with Yates. So you get to Spain, you're with Yates. You're now. How long were you there, and how long were you training with Yates in total?
Yeah, it wasn't that long because he was traveling a lot. So in the beginning, we probably did like a couple weeks, which is like 3 days a week,
Okay.
and then he would travel, and then he also would travel for work, but also people don't know his wife is Brazilian, so all her family's there. So sometimes they would just go there for a month,
Okay.
just for vacation. So if I counted every day that we trained together, I mean, it was probably like 2 months worth.
Okay. Okay. And you touched a little bit about this on the Cutler cast about his training style and how you necessarily didn't prefer it. Like you couldn't keep doing this even now that you're back in Vegas. You couldn't follow that type of training style. When you were with him, did you feel like you were making progress? Like if you were doing this all the time, would you get bigger and more mass on your body, or is that something that it just doesn't work genetically for your structure, etc.? Like what were your thoughts on it? What's going through that? Not everyone is able to train with Yates and do that style to his, specificity. So what's your take on going through that experience? Because it's a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Same as it was when I was training with Tom Platz. I mean,
Yeah.
he's probably the back of Tom Platz, and Tom Platz is the legs. So
Yeah.
it was very similar, where it's kind of nostalgic to be training with these guys, and you just know it's for sure going to work, right? If you're working with these guys. So it's cool to train with somebody you have no doubt that anything's
Yeah.
going to work. You just believe it and go with it. But yeah, it was very unorthodox. It was very uncomfortable. But that's what training should supposed to be. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable. And I love training with him. It didn't even matter what we were doing. We could have been doing some CrossFit, and I would have probably still got the same kind of feeling. Um, I think with certain things with the form, I am doing here, and I will do for the rest of my career. So there's definitely things that I'm going to do form wise. It's just the weight increments
Hmm.
that were really rough. I also feel like sometimes, he only had a small window to train me.
Yeah.
So I don't think that he was forcing or rushing anything, but I think we have less time to maybe do one set in between.
Right.
So that's probably the only thing that I would change from his training is that I'm going to pyramid a little bit more up to that weight, where rather than what he would do is we would do like kind of one warm up and then straight to whatever's almost the heaviest that I can do. And then he would do four sweeps with me. Um, Maybe if I started training like this from the beginning, before maybe when I got my pro card,
Yeah.
my tendons and my body would be able to get used to that. It's really weird. I feel like I've talked to this with some other bodybuilders. I feel like my body uh, sometimes automatically wants to take over with the joint. Like
Hmm.
if I jump up too heavy, my knees are just going to do it. It's not going to be like in the muscle, really,
Yeah.
the area that I'm trying to train. So that's all. That's the only thing that I would change is maybe just one or two sets in between. I would add two more, but sometimes we were training 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah, I'm a fan of shorter workouts, but for you, you want more. You want more of the high volume, the pump, getting the blood in the muscle more so than just pushing that heavy weight, and not necessarily maybe feeling the muscle and feeling the pump, which is what kind of Yates was doing.
Yeah, look, hey, look, if I was Mr. Olympia or at
Yeah,
least won an Arnold class, if I won an Arnold class right now, everybody would be saying whatever you're doing is working because no matter what, I mean, you could probably, or maybe your fans can look this up. I think I've gained the most weight from first show to last show
yeah,
because it's like 100 and almost 10 pounds. So obviously, I know how to fucking
yeah.
train. Obviously, I know how to put slabs of meat on my body. The problem is I'm just a little bit taller. It's taking longer. I've had setbacks and stuff like that. And now I just need to just nail it and get on
Hmm.
stage shredded. So the same thing with Cormier, Milos, Charles Glass, uh, so many people. I kind of just taken one thing from all of them, or a couple things sometimes, and then I implement it to my workout. And I think truly that's the best workout for everybody. I think it's very easy to be like, "What's the best for this?" And this person gives you the answer. But the true bodybuilders kind of learn everybody's way, and then you try it, and then you figure out what kind of works best for you.
Question did pop into my head because you mentioned this that you smoke you smoke weed, right? You don't hide that. And I had Quentin on the show prior, and he said he stopped, like he's going to cut it out of his prep. He's not going to smoke weed anymore, and he feels like it helped him. Do you think smoking weed affects your physique, your mindset into it? Like, are you holding water on it? Like, I don't know if it can even do that, but it's like, do you think it has any effect? If you stopped it, do you think you'd look better when you step on that stage?
No, I think it affects me in a positive way. I think if I
Okay.
stopped, I think it would be more in my head. I think it would be more stir crazy. I would have more anxiety. I think what he's talking about is maybe being reliant on it.
Mhm.
So when I get ready for a show, I definitely taper it down.
Okay.
I already will never train. I'll never smoke before I train. It's just
Okay.
something I can never do. So like around the show, um, sometimes maybe I'll just do a little bit less or right before at night so I can go to sleep. Um, but I have smoked before I got on stage for every single show I've ever done. Um,
Okay.
and so if you look at the 2020 package that we brought at the Arnold's, I'm super dry.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't think that that's a problem. Obviously, I'm older, so just because
Yeah.
something worked 4 years ago doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
working now. I just feel like um, I would cause way more harm to myself, worrying, questioning everything, and that's one thing that at least don't have to worry about because I smoke.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to chime in on that a little bit. Your previous coach, because I think you're with Neil Hill now.
Yep,
Okay. So you're with Chris Aceto for like the Legion show and the Cali Pro 2023,
my whole life.
your whole life. So first off, how
Mhm.
was your relationship with Chris as a coach, and even more so as a friend?
Um, Chris is the best. Chris is probably one of the best human beings in the sport. And there's no one who's worked with him, and then when they left, ever said anything bad about him.
Mm.
I just the same thing. That's why it was really cool to do that show with Jay because I knew when I was talking to him, everything that I was saying just made sense. Because just because you switch coaches at least in our case, not mine and his, it wasn't because someone was doing something wrong,
Mhm.
or you were getting some kind of less treatment or something. It's just that formula just stops working, stops popping,
Okay.
you know? And I'm not saying that even now this going with Neil that it's the for sure fix.
Mhm.
It's just that Legion show. I definitely could have been a little bit better, but I also knew I had a torn meniscus. I was barely training legs. It was very hard to pose. Every time I would pose certain poses, my like knee would get locked and it would have to like unclick.
Hmm.
So even on stage, I'm like, you can see me bracing for it, and I'm just trying to undo it. So either way, there was just so much background stuff going on that I never gave Chris my all in.
Okay.
And that's the shitty part about the Cal is that whole thing with Dubai is I wanted to do one more. That way, I'm not the problem, just to have one more problem happen. Um, but I think also for myself to even just be looking forward to the next show, kind of something for me to be excited about, is now me, right, moving to Spain to train with someone I've never really trained with before, doing a prep with someone where I have no idea what to expect.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's going to help me a lot, having no clue what Neil's going to do, rather than knowing kind of the similarities of what's going to happen come peak week and stuff like that with the coach you've been with since you're an amateur. But no, yeah, I talk to Aceto all the time.
Okay. So good relationships there still, which is awesome to hear. And then, so Neil, why Neil? There's tons of coaches. What made you select Neil?
Uh, I talked to a lot of his athletes, of course. I've also known Neil. I think before really a lot of people in the States did is I was with Gaspari, was my first sponsor,
Mhm.
and I went out to Tampa for it was like the first Tampa show, and Fletz was doing his first 202, I guess, show.
Yeah.
So I was able to meet him and Neil. So I've known them since I was, I don't know, 21, something like that.
Okay.
So a long time now. So I've just seen him. I've seen how he treats his athletes. But most of all, the thing that I need the most from a coach, because I don't need to be baby. I don't need you to. I'm not going to ask you a million questions. I just need you to be chill and calm,
Mhm.
and your demeanor, and it really helps me when they're like that. And I feel like that was something that no matter what I'm going through, whatever stresses, even my own personal stress I'm putting on myself for the show, Aceto was just, it was almost like smoking a joint. It,
Yeah.
like, whatever my problems were, it just chilled me out, and I just remember thinking, like, "This is so vital for me going before I'm gonna battle these guys. If I could find something similar, that's it." And the other thing is too is I haven't taken a lot of drugs. It's
Mhm.
the best thing about Aceto,
Okay.
is that he does not push, hard drugs. Sean Roden would talk about it all the time.
Mhm.
So, I can't go and exactly, like, I think Rami weighs more than me, Samson weighs more than me. Uh, there's not that many guys that are weighing more than me.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be a drug protocol thing that I
Yeah.
really need to step up for, especially for an off season. I just need to just nail that last week. So I want to go to someone as close to Chris as possible. And that was
Okay.
my goal. But a funny thing is that I didn't say on the show, is Neil blocked me on social media. So, that was probably the funniest part is that
Why would he block you? It's so funny people blocking people on social media. Yeah.
Well, no, no, like, look, if you're on my page and everything that you're posting is you're trying to do that, then yeah, you're gonna get blocked. But I think if someone's doing something on their own page, on their own, especially if you're not really like talking shit or name
Yeah.
dropping, right? I don't see why you would ever block anyone. But Neil blocked me because I definitely was someone that he cared about, and I
Mhm.
obviously upset him. So what it was, if people don't remember, when Bonock and him split, and Bonock was like saying how all the things that he had to pay Neil and stuff like that.
Ah,
So
yes.
I
Yes.
I just was being very immature and made a joke about how Aceto makes me have to give a blood sample and my firstborn child and all these like sacrifices I have to give. And it did. And I think if I wasn't someone that he cared about, it wouldn't have been nothing, you know.
Mm,
But it was like I definitely hurt his feelings and I upset him, and it was just something where he's not blocking me because he hated me. Because whenever we
right.
saw each other, it was never any kind of
Okay.
like negativity. It's just kind of out of sight, out of mind type of thing. So it was funny when I'm reaching out to him,
Yeah.
and I'm still blocked. I'm still blocked. That we talked about that and a few other things. But yeah, no, he's been really great so far. I'm really happy.
Oh, that's awesome to hear that you guys come kind of full circle there, and he's a coach now. Is there any real big differences between Aceto style of like food and nutrition versus Neil?
Yeah, and yeah, that's the other thing too. I'm sorry, is Raphael had just left the Cito, maybe a couple of months before I did. So I had actually talked to him, and that was kind of the best person that gave me the best direction because that's also someone that's only been with Aceto his whole career. So people can
Okay.
give me their opinion on Aceto, but when you've had 7 coaches, your opinion means a little bit less. So
Yes.
so Raphael was someone I really talked to, and that was something that he told me, be prepared because look, Aceto just expects that you're gonna do everything else right because you're a professional. You should be doing your vitamins yourself. You should be figuring out whatever foods for your off season you want to
Okay.
eat, you know, and I like that. I don't mind it for the off season and stuff like that, but the thoroughness of his plan to the amount of salt you put in your
Okay.
pre-workout. Like every single detail that Neil does is something I've never
Okay.
experienced. And I'm looking at it, after he's sending me these diets, and it makes me think, yeah, this is obviously very different than Aceto, but is this how everybody else is? Or is Neil just like this? I'll never know
No.
because this is the only people I've worked with, but it's very in depth, and that would probably be the biggest difference.
Okay. Okay. And now you're in Vegas. You're settling in there. Training wise, how's that going? How's the Vegas lifestyle in the atmosphere there?
Yeah, honestly, I like it way more than I thought I was going to. I was in a situation, like I said on Cutler's show, that I had to come back. I didn't want to because of that visa situation. It's especially sucked too because you also asked me with Dorian, was I getting gains?
Yes.
We trained for right X amount of time, and right when I probably would have really started to see those gains, I got injured.
Yeah.
So I never really saw it, but now when I'm now able to start training again, that's when I had to leave. So
Mhm.
it was really shitty that it was like we did a little bit, and then right when we're about to kill it, when he comes back from Brazil, I'm injured. Now he's there the whole time, but I can't even leave the house because I can't even walk.
Yeah.
And then right when I'm going to get on it again, so me being out here, it was kind of like I have to go back to the States. I don't have a choice. I'm definitely not moving back to Chicago and dealing with the cold where I'm from.
Yeah.
And I love where I live, even with everything politically wrong with California. I love San Diego and I love the gym out there. But then I would just did this whole full circle, Dubai, Spain, I'll go through all this just to be in the exact same position as I was. So coming to Vegas, it was kind of actually a little I don't know what the word is, but I definitely was not that excited. I just knew
Okay.
that this was the best place. I knew it had the best gyms. I'm around my old workout partners, other people like Regan and stuff that are better than
Okay.
me, that I know I can see. Seeing Keon over here on a regular will motivate anybody. But now that I've been here, it's actually way better than I thought, and I'm very
Okay.
excited about it. I love where I live. I love the neighborhood. I would imagine this is probably how it is back in LA in the 90s,
Yeah.
where every bodybuilder is helping out every other bodybuilder. They constantly like Joey from Dragons will just message me, just seeing how I'm doing. There's not any kind of like
Awesome.
reason, there's no
Yeah.
intent behind it. And that's not something that I'm used to. So it's very nice to have people that they gain nothing from you and
Yeah.
they're supporting you. It's a very rare thing in the sport, especially in this industry. So I like it. The heat is just the same as Dubai. So the worst thing about
Mhm.
Vegas doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
But my shoulder's still kind of limiting me a little bit. There's a couple things I can't do, but I'm just really excited to now with my personal life, my relationship is the best it's ever been. It's the best sponsors I've ever had. This is the best house I've lived in. So I'm kind of just really excited now to see myself, like what's going to
Yeah.
happen, because I'm the best way to describe it. I'm going to be going through this prep, watching Neil, looking back almost like as a spectator, because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, what's going to be next? Who am I going to train with this week? It's kind of like
That's it.
obviously training with these greats that I have are amazing, but it's very different to train with. I was just talking about this with manager Matt the other day because
Mm.
Regan came to Gold long time ago. It was me, Regan, and like Cody Montgomery, if people even know who he
Yeah, I
is. He's the
remember him. Yep.
youngest guy to ever go pro. And right, it's a bunch of three guys that we're just figuring it out on our own. But it was a great workout. It was a great like feeding off each other. And when you train with a Mr. Olympia, there is no like I don't get to give any of
Yeah.
my feedback. I
It's
don't do that also because I don't want to be that guy who is now going with him and immediately like, oh, I don't want to do this or I don't like that or this or that. With Dorian or even Cormier or anyone, I just do it. First, I just want to do it just so that way I can see on my own. And then maybe if something's like painful, I might give my 2 cents. But when you train with people who you know you're going to go against, it's just different.
yeah.
Um, that's what I'm saying. I bet that's how it was when Cormier and Flex and Sean and all them would be at Golds. Even if they're not training together, they're still seeing each other, you
Mhm.
know? So it's a good reminder too of when you think that you're big, because right, you're saying me 285 big is on stage,
Mhm.
right? So I'm three something in the off season.
Yeah.
You start to be like, man, you know what? I'm big. Even if you don't say that to yourself, you still are subconsciously thinking it. And to be reminded that you're not big or you're not shit on a daily basis is probably the best thing that you could be doing as a
Yeah.
professional bodybuilder.
Okay. And so, what I don't know if you said it on the Cutler cast, maybe I missed it. What show are you preparing for? Are you getting ready for 2025 or something this year?
Well, I can't even do a front double by trying to get my arm
Oh,
back.
okay.
But so it's really hard to pick a show when I can't even do two of the poses, back double or front double. Everything else is okay. But I feel like until I can literally just start even posing, I don't want to pick a show. But like I was saying on Jay's show, is that the thought of going having another year go by and not doing a show is going to kill me. So I'd really love to hop in those Romania,
Okay.
Portugal. I think those last shows that qualify for
Yes.
next year.
Yeah.
So I would love to be qualified, and then I could take the whole year and just get ready for the Olympia. That would be amazing. But if not, let's just say because I'm going to physical therapy for this, there's nothing torn or nothing bad. It's just one of those things where you have to just try and open it up. It locks on me, my
Yeah.
shoulder. So let's say I fix it, I qualify, but if for whatever reason I can't hop into a show in time, because I'm also not gonna just do a show really quick with the first time with Neil. That's gonna be the dumbest thing that I can do.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's not fair to him. But regardless, I'm going to do the Arnold no matter what.
Okay. Okay. There's a show in France, and I think there's a show in like Korea, where like no one goes, but it's like it's a quick, easy qualification to the Olympia. Now, I'm not saying you're looking for a quick, easy qualification, but it's at the very end of the year, and no one ends up seems to want to do it. But it's like Korea, they probably take good care of you out there, get you out there. That could be a potential show. Gives you the rest of the year to just train with Neil, dial it in for a show. I think it's November, December, the show. And but then that's kind of close to the Arnold till March, so you don't have much gap in between. But yeah, just throwing that
But yeah,
out there. Yeah,
I forgot about that Korea show. You're
yeah,
right. Yeah, that
yeah,
would be really.
yeah. So could be potential there. So with the shoulder injury, how is training in Vegas? Are you just working around it? Is it like are you working with a doctor or like a chiro or someone to try and fix this, or like what's the plan to fix the shoulder?
Yeah, I just got with a physical therapist that's going to start having me do these crazy exercises that'll get me to open up. And I feel good about it because I can get it to where it opens up, but then it just retracts back, and that's the hardest part. So I'll get a little sign like hitting. I hit a front double for the first time 2 days ago, and I was very
Mm.
excited. It was exciting just to get air in my armpit. You know, it's
Yeah,
just like little things. But I just keep telling myself like this is really the smallest thing that I've had to deal with. I've never not been able to hit a pose before, but I've
yeah.
dealt with way worse that people would never even know. So I don't know if it's just because I've had these experiences of really hard times or even
Mm.
seen other people go through harder, or my relationship is so good now that I feel like I can handle anything. So I'm
Yeah,
not stressed, I'm not worried about it. But yeah, the only time I even honestly think about it is when someone asks me what show I'm gonna do. Other
yeah.
than that, I really don't even really think about how much I'm behind because I just feel like everything's in place. So now just to let things unfold.
Yeah, just put in the work and grind and
Mhm.
focus. switching kind of modes here. You kind of mentioned to that struggles in the past, and I kind of wanted to get a little deeper with you because you did mention it a few times on the color cast that you wanted to take your life. You were depressed and you through a lot of struggles in your life, but you didn't really elaborate on it, or Jay didn't really push you on it. Are you open to talking about like the points that were, and Phil Heath also did this in that documentary. He talked about laying on the road and wanting to take his life. Like bodybuilders go through this. A lot of bodybuilders, a lot of top bodybuilders, not going to open up and talk about this. So for you to do that is really huge. And if anyone that's watching this podcast after and they're going through those things and they want to take their lives and they see you and they look up to you, and that could change the trajectory of their life because they're just seeing a role model open up and express this. What advice or what would you say to someone who's thinking about taking their life right now, who's stressed and depressed? What advice would you give them to get through? Because you got through it. You're still here today, thank God. So if you're able to open up a little bit on that.
Uh, yeah, mine was just triggered because of what I went through with my divorce and my wife and stuff like that. But really, now that I'm old enough to look back, it's really because of where my life was. I was just so, you know, people only telling you you're not enough in the thing that you literally dedicated your whole life to. Like, it's so crazy when people could do other things besides bodybuilding. There's a few, like, even Phil, maybe he's a little short for basketball, but he's definitely an athlete.
Yeah.
So there's a few people you'll hear, like, people are like, oh, I got injured with football, so I started lifting weights and I got into bodybuilding. There's a rare amount of people who pick bodybuilding
Mhm.
over scholarships, and I was one of them. I chose to be 155 pounds, and I'm going to be a pro, and now I'm not going to take my scholarships, my full rights that I got for all the sports that I've been doing my whole life, to choose this just to be told constantly you're not shit. So you have that going on, and then you start to believe it in your head, and then you throw in any kind of spice of real damage that's going to set you off. But I don't think anyone should ever want to take their life because of a partner. It should never be that serious. Mine was just that I couldn't control my thoughts. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't literally turn off. Even if I was in an environment with people around me that were great people trying to distract me, I would forget for a little bit. And then before I know, I'm back on it again. So it was actually the ability to not be able to control my own brain that made me want
Okay.
to end it all. And that was the hardest part. And if you talk to a lot of people that have kind of similar depressions, it's the same thing. It's having the best distraction in the world, even people that even have kids, like creating life and now watching them grow, and you're still wanting to take your life. It's got to be a really deep mental issue. But as in, like, advice and stuff like that, it's really hard because there's different types of depressions and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I only know mine was serious because I was off everything. I think every bodybuilder has
Yes.
had some deep thoughts during the wrong hormonal times that we go
Yes.
through, especially pre and post shows. But no, I was off everything for a while because I was going back and forth to Australia. I was not
Okay.
doing shows. I passed up my Olympia qualification,
Mhm.
and didn't go, which I regret. But for myself, I can't give anyone else advice. But for myself, it's so shocking that after that, I could say to myself, "This is the best blank I've ever had," or "This is the best whatever." So if you're still able to say these things, that means
Mhm.
I was almost not gonna say these things. I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in, and I would have never met her. I feel like with my friends and my family where I am, just like as a person, I feel like the most healthy and mentally stable I've ever been, and I would have never been here if I would have just ended it. So, uh in general, when because I got a lot of people reaching out. I probably had more people reach out about when I was public about my divorce and my depression than I probably have bodybuilding questions. It was very, very crazy to see the amount of people and some kind of top people
Mhm.
that wanted to talk about it that people would never know. So what I always told them is it's very easy for me to say once I'm out of that dark time of my life, is it has got to be the most selfish thing to do, to take your own life. It's way different if you're like Like, look, if you're someone who's been like raped or like serious shit like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you wanting to end it, no one can tell you because you're gonna now have to live with that forever. That's really
Yeah.
tough. But if it's small things, or if it's just things like my own inability to control my own brain from wandering into some kind of negativity. I used to think that I had some kind of disease or something where it's like I just saw this thing on Instagram where it's like intrusive thoughts. We all have
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
It's like you're driving. What would happen if I just did this? We all have those,
Yeah.
but mine were going to where it would be like a great day, and then it would be like, yeah, but that whole time that you moved there, she was lying to you. It's like my body had to try and find something to ruin my day.
Yes.
So that was really bad. But if it's something like that, then if you have a mother or a
Mhm.
spouse or children, or no matter what, like me, I had two people, they were my friends, but they were fully invested into my career.
Mhm.
They were all in on my career. And if I would have did that because of someone I was in a relationship with, then that's so fucking disgustingly selfish
Yeah.
to them. Because one of my friends also was like the smartest person in my high school, and she also passed up scholarships and getting an actual real degree to
Mhm.
do this crazy ass bodybuilding thing. So for me to be like, oh, I mean, obviously we're not thinking straight. It's very
Yeah.
hard to think like, methodically. But either way, that's what I tell people when they message me is, can you imagine how your spouse would feel
Mhm.
finding your body, or your kids having to know that that happened? So usually kind of like a harsh truth like that kind of helps people a lot, because even if we're not strong enough for ourselves, you can find some kind of strength for someone else.
Yeah.
And like look at famous people like
Mhm.
Robin Williams is the biggest example, because no one knew that he was going through this, and he
Yeah.
had kids and he had a happy life, but he was just dealing with whatever it was that was so you know triggering for him. So I think that there are certain cases that there's just nothing that you can do. But if you can't summon strength for yourself, then try and summon it for someone else that loves you and probably would even think about taking their own life because of the thought of losing you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great advice, and that's why I really wanted to chime in there and see, personally what you've been through and how you got through it, because people can watch this and learn from it and take any little bit from it and apply it to themselves. So, thank you for opening up about that. Just a quick little bit about your father. How was your relationship with him? Was it close? Was it on and off? And do you have any like real like what's one fond memory you have of your dad?
Man, no one's ever asked me that. All the questions about my dad. Um, so to answer your question first, we were not close. It was always I was either like leaving and moving in with a buddy when I was in like high school. And then even the girl that I was just talking about, that was my friend that I dated in high school, I moved in with her family because my dad kicked me out of my house because I spoke back to him. And I remember that was the first time. And I think that he kicked me out of the house because it was the first time that I wasn't afraid of him. I think his thing
Yeah.
was always to try and strike fear into me. And I think I'll never forget, I was like 17. I just was had enough because I was a good kid. Like, I'm not getting all A's in schools, but
Mhm.
I'm surrounded. All my friends are bangers. Like, I'm not fucking around with no gangs or nothing. I'm not a drug dealer or anything like that. I'm a good kid, and I know that my dad was really fucked up from his own personal stuff. Now that I'm older, and I know him being a cop, 35 years. Besides military, police officers are probably the most mentally fucked up. Only the strongest ones can't take it home. And if you're a
Mhm.
Chicago cop in the murder capital,
Yeah.
then it's even harder. And no one can say anything unless you've done that job, even myself. So, but no matter what, nothing was good enough for him. It was always just what is
Wow.
almost pretty much what the boards look like for me now is not what I'm doing, but what I'm not doing. So I even was just like one day I'm like, you're not gonna hit me anymore. And it was just like I was just done with that. And you could see his face. It was like he didn't know what else to do. Because
Mhm.
if violence wasn't going to strike fear into me anymore, then that was it. He had no control over me anymore because we had no real relationship. There was no
Okay.
relationship where he could sit down and talk to me and have that kind of. But I think it's because, or I know it is because he didn't have that. His father
Hmm.
was, I can't even imagine what my grandfather was, being in Cuba and stuff like that. And yeah, the situation was completely different. But regardless, my dad probably never had a father who sat down and was like, "Hey, let me talk to you about something." That's never happened to me in my life, and I know it's never happened to him. So he's not gonna know how to do that. So yeah, he literally kicked me out of my house, and that was it. 17, I never saw him again.
Okay.
And then I moved to Florida, and that's when I started doing my bodybuilding, and I was there for 8 years, and I didn't see him. I would come back to visit Chicago every now and then, and I would like see him, for like an hour or something like that. Stop by the house or something like that. But that was it. It wasn't until I did a competition, the Junior Nationals in Chicago, that he finally went to a competition. It was the one and
Okay.
only show that
Okay.
he ever went to, and it was really cool. I don't know because I'm sure everybody knows. All my dad did was try his hardest to stop me from bodybuilding. He would literally call gyms and not let me join. Like he went above and beyond to let me not let me join, or not let me bodybuild. So now I'm at the show. It was kind of like a weird thing to see him being supportive, but it wasn't fake
Mm.
because I think it was just no matter what. This is probably the first time my dad's at a non-Olympia show.
Yeah.
Probably, probably honestly, besides maybe if he had like, I know my godfather, his workout partner, did a couple shows in Illinois a couple times,
Okay.
but that's it. That's probably the only time my dad's even been to a bodybuilding show that wasn't the Olympia or the Arnold, since he's retired. And I think it was really cool
Mm.
for him. I think it was different for him because it was the first time he was ever at a show for someone that he's obviously severely connected to. I don't think that my dad's ever watched a show in his entire life and ever had any kind of letdown, hopes, anxiety, watching a show because my mom competed and she was a pro, but my mom said that he was so hard on her that
Yeah.
even like a couple times, like she got like second, he like broke the trophy backstage because he was just so angry. So I don't think my dad ever, until he went to see me at that show, was ever like a normal human being. Like, oh my God, here he comes. Oh my God, what's his place going to be? Things
Hmm.
normal people go
Yeah.
through when you go support someone. So that was really cool.
Mm.
And then that kind of like sparked this like, let's try and make it work again.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget, it was Fuad's wife, Summer,
Hmm.
was doing a photo shoot, and it was a photo shoot. It was going to be me and my dad, and it was completely fake because we've never been in a gym together. But here we
Okay.
are pretending that we're working out together. But fuck, what's real in the magazines?
Yeah.
It's almost as real as social media. But no, regardless, we're the first father son doing a magazine shoot together. So I'm all about it. I'm all excited. I've been telling my dad about this for a very long time to get ready for it, and he was just so rude to Summer. Oh, it was just
Oh.
so embarrassing. It was just like a typical, your dad's just embarrassing you. But it was just because he was such a know-it-all, and it was
Mhm.
like you weren't going to tell a Mr. Olympia what to do, and he even like raised his voice to her. So it was just so bad. And then it just reminded me, like, wow, I'm not doing bodybuilding for him. I know that
Mhm.
this person is so famous. I know that people can't, and then naming me his name. I
Yeah.
don't expect anyone to not think about him. But Jesus Christ, this guy could not give a shit, not only about bodybuilding as a whole, let alone my career. So it just reminded me, like, no matter how hard I try, because it was my relationship that she told me, like, hey, look, how your dad was raised. He's not a you go 50, he goes 50 kind of guy. You're going to have to go
Mm.
a little bit more. And I think that advice helped me where I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to start letting things go and blah, 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 and making an effort just to have that experience happen. And then he ended up leaving. He just left the photo shoot. It was just
Oh.
so shitty. So then there was another big gap where we didn't talk.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, it's a long answer to your
No.
question, but that's how it was. It was I knew him growing up with him, and then we battled, and then these little meetups here and there where I'm trying to make an effort through bodybuilding, something he should be able to say, I know this shit. Like
Mhm.
he only went to third grade. I understand when I went
Yeah.
through school, my dad never helped me one day with homework. He couldn't. He couldn't help
Yeah.
me anything past. learning ABCs and one, two, threes because they
Mhm.
didn't do multiplication in Cuba. So that I understood, and I'm so mature as a kid to be able to understand, look, your dad's an immigrant. He didn't go to school. He's not going to be that dad for that. But now I'm doing the thing you almost fucking invented.
Yeah.
And still, so now, right. So now he leaves the photo shoot. I'm done. I'm not even going to work with this guy. I'm not going to make efforts anymore because it just puts me in such a bad mood. And
Mhm.
I'm so upset. I'm so distraught. I'm crying, and it's like, if I didn't make this effort, I wouldn't be. And I also wanted to tell myself, what if I didn't try? Because then I would be
Okay.
saying, oh, you know what? You never made another effort. So here I am trying and trying and trying. And then now here comes the last time that I ever saw my dad is they do the Olympia reunion. They bring back
Mhm.
every Mr. Olympia, and my dad, my dad is the most negative technology person ever. So he's never used a cell phone in his life. He had a beeper for like 3 days, and he like threw it away. He's never
Mhm.
used a computer. It used to be a thing when he was on the police department. They started putting the computers in the squad cars,
Yeah.
and they had before he had to learn it. He literally just would refuse and never learned it. So that when they need to get a hold of my dad, they can't get a hold of him. There's no
Okay.
email, there's no cell phone. You literally just have to leave a voicemail at the house line, and that's it.
Mhm.
And you just hope he calls you back. So anyone from the IFBB calling my dad, he's definitely either going to not call back or it's going to take a long time for him to call him back. So a couple of the people that I know, I think it was Dan Solomon actually called me and was like, "Hey, look, we're trying to get a hold of your dad. We're bringing back everybody. Even Arnold's coming back."
Yeah.
And I even said, like, I don't know, but I'll try. So I call him, "Hey, dad, blah blah blah. They're doing this." Immediately, no, he's not doing it. Trying to talk to him. The last thing you should do is mention how Arnold's doing it. That's only going to make him more mad. So he hangs up the phone. He says he's not going to do it. And then again, just like the junior nationals, there's a little part of in him where he is such a great dad and he wants to make an effort. I know he doesn't want to go because I know that he already knows. I don't know this at the time. I know this now. He knows they're going to put him on stage with Joe Weider, the guy that he hates so
Mhm.
much. They're going to do this where they pretend that they're friends. And one good thing about my dad is he'll never be fake, and it's not something he's able to do. So I know that that's what he's thinking. So now he decides he's going to do that for me. And he
Okay.
calls me back and he says, "Okay, I'll do it, but I don't want to go by myself. I want you to go with me."
Okay.
And here's me just, getting into bodybuilding on my own, figuring out shit like this. And now he's saying he wants to go. It was like my dad saying he wants to like throw the ball with me for the first time.
Mhm.
I was so excited. We go, and then the same thing. He just gets there, and now that I'm older, I can understand that he's dealing with insecurities and he's
Yeah.
dealing with things like I said on Jay's show. And he was just in such a bad mood that it was such a horrible experience. He ended up kicking me out of the hotel room, and I had no place to go. And that was the last time I talked to my dad. And then he died. He died like a year or two later after that. So it was really shitty. And it was just horrible that no matter what, he's still dealing with things from this sport, and he should have been able to be at this Olympia. And that's what I'll say on Jay's show. That's the best thing about Dorian. Dorian, Lee Haney, of the Mr. Olympias. Jay, there's a few of the guys that actually won the Olympia. Like there's a
Mhm.
there's a bunch of other guys, but they didn't win the Olympia that are like this. But of the Olympians, it's so hard to win. And now you're more happy in your life now than you were when you were a humongous king of the fitness world.
Yeah.
And like I was telling Jay, I don't know how he does it. I think maybe because it switched from him being such an animal with the gym that he switched to business. So
Mhm.
he's still constantly busy, and maybe that
Yeah.
was his thing. Dorian's is just he's like appreciating life. He's just going
Mhm.
through and understanding himself now. He's understanding his demons from the past, which only makes you now look back and your future's gonna look. If we can look back on our past and see the things that we did wrong, you have less of a chance of repeating them in the future, and you're probably gonna
Yeah.
start to appreciate, people that were there for you. And you can see that in him. Things that are not that important are not that important to him.
Mhm.
And I wish my dad was able to just go to these shows and say, "These young guys, right? They don't know who he is. They're never gonna know that he probably could have won 10 Olympias if
Yeah.
there wasn't all the stuff that was going on." But people don't know that.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people who did, they're dead. They're not even around anymore. And it's got to be really tough for my dad, Larry Scott, um, really just them, because
Mhm.
after Arnold and Franco, we had video footage. But anyone before Arnold, there's not a lot of video footage. I think I've seen one video of my dad
Yeah.
on stage. It's just pictures. And another thing too is a big rumor, is that Joe Weider burned, because this is how easily accessible it was back then. When you have two, three photographers at the show, you have
Mhm.
access to every photo.
Yeah.
Joe Weider burned every single photo that exists, even bought some to burn them or get rid of them, that showed my dad beating Arnold in anything. And if you think about it, you'll never see a picture of my dad next to Arnold beating him. It might be
Yeah.
even or Arnold
Yeah.
Arnold winning. Those are the only pictures you will ever see. But then you'll see a picture of him by himself that literally would have been the same day of the show, and he looks like a
Yeah.
monster. But the pictures that you'll see of Arnold are Arnold's like he's more closer,
Yeah.
so he
Yeah.
looks a lot bigger, and my dad
Yeah.
being shorter. So there's a lot of things like that where I believe it, and especially if you're trying to say that this guy is your ambassador, this is the face of the company.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want all the little. I mean, look at social media now. If somebody wins a show, and they're not deserving of it, the Instagram blows up. The same
Yeah.
thing was happening in the world back then. We just didn't have social media, so it would be like going on Instagram and just deleting every photo of Tonio beating
Yeah.
Rafael in Brazil. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's believable. I believe it. So either way, my point is that he knows all these things. All these horrible things happened to
Yeah.
him, and now he's at this Olympia, very unhappy, and unfortunately, that's how our relationship ended. But if I had to pick like a fond memory, uh, it would be it would be. I don't know if I said it on Jay's show or not,
Mhm.
but my first experience with Lou Ferrigno was very bad. Like
Okay.
probably like everybody else's. Is he's another guy too that the same thing. He's got 100 stories where he got screwed over, and now he's
Yeah.
got this wall up, and it's gonna come off like he's a dick. But you don't know
Mhm.
that he got screwed over by his dad.
Yeah.
How messed up are you gonna get? Getting screwed over by your dad financially. So either way, I'm gonna. When I want to meet people the first time when I was like growing up in the sport, I would just go to the booth and meet them. I still would never introduce myself as my name or let alone my dad's son. So I meet Lou. He won't even talk to me. Either way, he has this other guy talking to me. Anyone who's had this experience with Lou knows this is exactly how it is. You buy this picture, you get a poster, and all I was trying to do was I was trying to ask how much it would cost to get him to sign the poster and the picture. And oh my god, it was just wouldn't even look at me. He's not even going to answer the question. It was just so bad that I just walked away, and I was just
Mhm.
done. And that was my experience. I looked at the expo for the rest of the day, and then I was hanging out with my dad at the booth because he was there. I was there for another company. He was there for himself. We didn't even go together. This was like when I
Okay.
was really young, and he's doing he's trying to be a dad. He's like,
Mhm.
oh, did you go give your respects to Larry Scott? Did you go say hello? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And he's like, did you go say hi to Lou? Because me and Lou's son kind of grew up together. There's like pictures of us when we're like a baby, like in a
Okay.
like bathtub and shit, like that kind of growing up
Okay.
together. So our families were close. My mom and Lou's wife were close. So my dad was like, "Did you go say hi to Lou?" Like, like I should have done that. And I was like, "Well, I went, but I could." He wouldn't even talk to me, and it was just such a bad experience. I just walked away, and he was just like, "Lou did that,"
Mhm.
and it was the only time ever I've seen my dad act like a dad, and he like almost pulled me by my arm. It was like I got like bullied, and now my dad's going to
Yeah.
the parents,
Yeah.
to beat their
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
And he goes up and he's like, Lou, you're treating my son something or whatever. And he's like, oh my God, no. And it was so cool to see the fucking Incredible Hulk go from
Mhm.
being this 6'4", just stale face, not even looking at anyone. And now he's
Yeah.
like, oh, no, 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 no. And it was so cool to see. Like, it had nothing to do with my dad being Mr. Olympia. It had nothing to do with him being muscular or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just because Lou had such an amount of respect for my dad, and they were friends. And he honestly didn't know. He shouldn't know. It shouldn't matter
Yeah.
if I'm that son or not. But
Yeah.
he obviously didn't know, and that's what he was saying. But that was like kind of the my dad can beat up your dad
Yeah.
moment. my life, and it was kind of really cool because I never really cared about him as a Mr. Olympia growing up. It wasn't a thought of mine. But that was the first time that I really was able to see the aura of my dad, to
Yes.
everybody else. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Cool. No, a great story. I mean, to get a little background into that, and yeah, fond memory of your dad, and you've had some, so that's good that you got to experience some of that. Um, Little twist here, a little turn into, because it's been an hour, so it's going awesome. You're really in depth with your answers, so I'm all for it. So this is awesome for me and for the viewers to see this side of you. So, what's the mindset that you need to be a professional bodybuilder? Like, what does it? The training's there, but what mindset does it take? Because a lot of athletes that are watching, they love training. They think you just got to train and you'll be the best in the world. But what type of mindset does it take?
Um, I guess depending on what kind of body type you are, but if
Mhm.
I was speaking for myself, if you're a taller bodybuilder, then the mindset needs to be that this is going to take a long ass fucking time.
Okay.
Like I think it's very hard to understand if you're above 5'10" doing this sport that you're gonna see guys that are not as good as you doing better faster. And then it starts to automatically make you feel like you're not doing something because they are. When somebody who is shorter, their training is easier. They're able to ability to fill out is gonna be faster. It's just a lot, it's just a different world. But like I was saying on Jay's show, 10 out of 10 times, as long as they're both conditioned, the taller guy is always going to beat the guy because it's such a
Hmm.
draw of your attention. On pictures, on social media, no. On stage, there's no one who's ever been at a show. And I mean, look at like when Cedric went against Dallas. Dallas is an
Hmm.
amazing bodybuilder. No one took their eyes off of Cedric, and it was just
Yeah.
because of his just height and his shape. And that's just an example where it was two great bodybuilders, and one made the other one seem like they were not as great, but it was really just stature.
Yeah.
So if you're taller, it's a lot harder. It's going to take longer. But also, the biggest advice that I would just give to just anyone in general is the make or break in this sport has nothing to do with dieting, cardio, training. Your training, like you can train like ass, and your
Mm.
your body will reflect.
Yeah.
You will reflect it. You would have never looked good on stage.
Yeah.
When you're looking good, and then sometimes you don't. That's just a peaking thing, and that's just like a nutritional thing. But if you have nothing looking good, then yeah, you're training like shit. But most people, if you're a pro, let's say that they train well, it's gonna be it's really hard for you to tell yourself you're not out training anyone, you're not gonna out diet anyone. And like even Jay was saying to me on his show, is I overtrain. I was overdoing cardio. I just always thought I could do more. I'm gonna beat everybody. That's not what separates people. We're all at the end of the day doing the same thing, right? This person might do this training, might do that training, but you're still spending X amount of hours at the gym. You're still, when you go home, you're still spending X amount of time still thinking about this sport because we don't clock out and then go home and not think about it. The thing that separates is being able to balance your personal life, your finances, and your regular life with bodybuilding. And that's what I was
Hmm.
saying to Jay. When somebody sent me a clip, because I won't watch these videos because I hate the sound of my voice, but someone sent me a video, and I realized when I said that, I was saying to Jay, I wish that we had podcasts like this, like
Hmm.
yours,
Yeah.
growing up, because if I would have heard Jay, what he was going through, I would have said, even if I'm going to deal with it on my own way, I'm not going to deal with it how he did. He still went through this.
Hmm.
Where when you're going through stuff, you start to look at guys because they don't post their financial downfalls. They don't post that they're not able to eat because they're so upset because of some kind of spouse or something like that. And if I just knew about that, and then you saw that they won a Sandow or whatever it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
when it happens, it's just like if anything, you feel like I am on the right path,
Hmm.
where you start to think I'm doing something wrong. Why can't I get my life together and stop it from affecting my bodybuilding life? Because my bodybuilding life is all in. It's perfect. I don't fuck up. I don't choose anyone over my bodybuilding life. But I kind of do because I keep dealing with things on the side of my life that I should have just got rid of, did the hard cut.
Hmm.
So people getting into the sport, the mindset is to be that you are going to have these setbacks. The girlfriend that you started this with is probably not going to be the same girlfriend that you're going to end it with.
Yeah.
You're going to have sponsors who literally treat you like shit, they screw you over, and then people will message on boards like, "Oh, this person's with a new sponsor," and they'll never know that they fucking robbed you.
Mhm.
And you have to just do what Sean did, and it's the smile and wave. That smile and wave, man, it's like it's so crucial the older I get. And it was so funny. He used to say that. I would message him about whatever I'm going through, and he would just send that to me. And sometimes it's like annoying. But
Mhm.
really, that's what you have to do. You just have to say this is part of it. You smile and you wave, and then you go on to the next one. Because right now, it's easy for me to say now because I have the best of all those things. I had a bad relationship. Now I have the best relationship. So I can look back and say, like, oh, that was just supposed to happen, lead me to here. I met her in Dubai. It's so easy for us to go through our life after things and say, oh, everything was supposed to happen. I hate when I go through something and people are like, everything happens for a reason, but it does. So the mindset of a bodybuilder is to know that you're going to have shit that has nothing to do with bodybuilding trying to stop you from bodybuilding. And you just have to look at it like when you're on the treadmill and you got 30 minutes left, and whatever you go through when you're already like, oh my God, everyone does it. You go on the treadmill and you're like, oh man, it's at least been a half hour, and it's been like 10 minutes. And you're like,
Yeah.
fuck,
Yeah.
whatever you just did to make yourself now go twice as long and finish, we can do with our personal life.
Okay. Okay. Well said. Well said. And question here: who's been your biggest supporter, your ride or die, over all these years, coming and going? Who's been there for you the most? That's the one single person that's been your ride or die through your dark
Aceto.
times, good times.
Yeah, Aceto. That's easy.
Aceto. Okay.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. He's the first person I called when I got out of jail. Yeah, people don't know the New York Pro. I was so broke, bought a one-way ticket to New York. I had no idea I was going to get back, and all that, and which I've talked about before. But people also don't know that I was just losing my mind on the floor of the hotel room because I was just so stressed out. And Aceto had like called the hotel room, and I was like taking a nap. I passed out, and then he couldn't get up because I put the hotel room in my friend's name, so he couldn't even find out what room it is. So either way, he had to go back to his hotel room, and then he called me and he yelled at me. It was the first time I've ever heard Aceto yell. It was so crazy, and I just like lost it. And I was just like, man, I'm trying so hard. I don't even know how I'm going to get back to California. I'm so stressed out. So either way, people would have no idea that all this is happening in the hotel room. And if people knew the stories of a couple people who've won the Arnold and even won the Olympia, trashing their hotel room, losing their
Mm.
minds, and then come out and smile and they win the
Yeah.
trophy, and you go, oh man, I want to be like that person. And then when you go through these times and you're like, man, something's wrong with me because I'm going through it and they didn't go through it. So Aceto's been through every single one of those. He was there through my divorce, when I was stuck in another country, when like it's just so much. I mean, even that show, he was traveling to go to the Arnold, Australia for me, and then
Hmm.
they canceled the show. Aceto's he's been to every single one of my shows. That's going to be something that I definitely have to prepare myself for. Neil's not going to go to every single one of my shows.
Hmm.
That's definitely something that'll be new for me. But yeah, it's easily him. I started this, and I'm still close with her, but we're only just doing the business stuff on the side. We're not doing the bodybuilding anymore. But yeah, it's the same person. I got tattooed on my back when I was 17 and moved out and couldn't carry a job, and she paid for everything, and she was the one who really carried me through all those amateur days.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, her name is Hallie. So that's the
Okay.
only person. But I've known her since third grade. So we
Wow.
just our
Okay.
whole life have been together, right? Hmm.
Okay. Um, why do you bodybuild? Why do you like bodybuilding? Like you've been through so much with it, especially with your dad trying to keep you away from it. Why do you do this?
I did the team sports. Even when I did track, uh, I was probably, besides swimming, I was probably the best at track. And track's still a team sport. There was plenty of times where I want our team to go to state finals, but people don't know each track event, whatever you do, long jump, fast,
Mm.
long, whatever, you get a certain amount of points, and then they tally that up, and whatever team gets the most points, that team wins. So even something as track, where it's just you racing against everybody else, it's still a team sport. Football, all those things. I hated killing it or doing my best. like literally breaking my own records and then losing. And that was harder to me than to do something on my own and not having one to rely on. So I really love that. If you would never know from the fans, the majority of fans from bodybuilding, you would think that you're up there with a full team and coach and everything, but it's just us by ourselves, you
Yeah.
know. And you might have a good workout partner, and you might have like a good spouse like support and stuff like that. But when you get on stage, you're by yourself, and I love that aspect of it. But clearly, I have, people want to talk about genetics, genetics, genetics. The only thing that I really believe in genetics is I clearly have my parents' mental genetics because I love the art of bodybuilding.
Okay.
The way that I can look at a physique and see the art through it. I love the posing. I think if you really put effort into a routine, I think that that's really cool. I've seen some people's routines that didn't win the show that made me more motivated to be a bodybuilder when I was growing up. I think the idea of when people message me that, it's really cool when people message you things that you didn't even think about. They'll message you and be like, man, you didn't win that show, but like me and my friends, we couldn't stop talking about, your routine or your stage presence or whatever it was. And then you start to think like, yeah, how many times did I see like Melvin Anthony, do a routine and that's all I remembered. And obviously that's like very like flashy. So obviously that's going to be stuck in your head. But there
Yeah.
was times that I watched just Labrada standing on stage, just his stature, how he would stand and he's smaller than everybody
Hmm.
else. Why was I so stuck on this guy that didn't even win? And I love stuff like that. I love when I went to the Olympia when it was in Chicago, and you got people that were yelling for Nasser, and then there was another guy that was yelling for Sean Ray. They're about to get into a fight, and I'm like 11 years old, and I have no idea who any of these guys are, and they're just like, fuck Nasser, no, fuck Sean Ray, and fuck you. It was like so crazy. And then I swear they left, walking out of the auditorium with an arm around each other, laughing like fuck Dorian.
Yeah.
Like both both coming together to
Yeah.
say fuck the guy who beat both of their guys,
Yeah.
and that's bodybuilding. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really cool. So I love that nothing's for sure. I love that it's the hardest sport in the world. Um, but me myself, I love the sport so much as a fan that if I was LeBron's son and I was now playing basketball, I love basketball. Obviously, I went through college. I'm playing it. Obviously, you have to love it. But in the back of his head, he knows that he wins a championship. It's one. I mean, I guess it's happened a couple times in basketball, but no one who's like the best. It's not Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
If it's not Michael Jordan, it's like besides Kobe, you have LeBron.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of him playing, there's no matter what he would say, it's very cool to be able to make history and do something like that. And I think that that's also what really drives me is if I wasn't me and I was watching bodybuilding, I would be rooting for me to do well so much because, right, what's LeBron's slogan? Witness, right? I would love to be alive when I saw Michael Jordan's son win a basketball tournament. I would love to be alive and see Arnold's son win the Olympia. Like I was alive during that time. I saw this thing that was like every 100 years there's new people. Right. So
Mhm.
all of us, no matter what, even all the people that dislike me and will watch this whole show and still will
Mhm.
talk shit about me, we're all alive at the same time. We
Yeah.
are existing on this planet during these 100 years. And if I got to be alive and saw this kid, do it with no support from that Mr. Olympia, do it on
Right.
his own. He wasn't raised rich. There's plenty of bodybuilders that have money, that were born into money. And yes, they're doing well now. Obviously, they have a plan B, they have a safety net. To do bodybuilding, like if I get injured tomorrow, like knock on wood, I'm done. Like I'm not done with bodybuilding. I'm done and have to figure out what I have to do, go back to school, get a degree, because I'm
Yeah.
not gonna make money. And when you're going through that, and like if you've done a show, if you've done an amateur show, I would be watching me and being like, man, this dude's doing this. I want to be alive and watch this happen because I saw this person do this, you know. So that really excites me. I really, the fan of me of the
Yeah.
sport wants this to happen because, like I was saying on Jay's show, it's not going to happen again. There's never going to be a son of a Mr. Olympia who's going to go through all it takes to just win a pro card. Even though
Yeah.
it's easier for other classes, it's still harder for open classes. You still, have three shows,
Yeah.
USA's, Nationals, and North Americans.
That's it.
uh, and they're all being born with money. There's no way that I'm gonna have money. I'm gonna have my college paid for, and I'm not gonna go to college. You know, and it's
Mhm.
very rare that people are like Hunter. Hunter finished his degree and then he did bodybuilding. So
Yeah.
he's a rare person. But usually you have to now be starting bodybuilding already in those years. If
Yeah.
you're in your college years. So I don't think that that's going to happen. So I think if we could all be alive and have this happen,
Mhm.
uh, even if you don't like, even if I don't like somebody personally, it would be like really cool that I'm gonna, because most fans are gonna bring their kids to this to sport,
Mhm.
and you're gonna be like at some point one day you're gonna be like, look at this guy. He went against Arnold. And in my generation, which is it's a big gap between me and my dad,
Mhm.
it's 50 years. Oh, look, this is his son. And I think that that would be really cool. And then that's something, if I can make people who dislike me root for me, then that's kind of like a superpower.
Yeah. And you alluded to this. If you get injured, what are you going to do? So, what's life after bodybuilding for Sergio? What's the game plan?
Um, I definitely want to promote shows. I definitely think there's a lot of Latin American countries that don't have any bodybuilding shows. I was really excited, excuse me, when Puerto Rico had that Puerto Rican Pro. I think they still have a
Hmm.
show, but it's not for open anymore. And that was a sign of they're trying to start putting these shows in these areas. Because can you like it's so easy for us as Americans to just be, it's something I also learned leaving the country for 3 years. We're very unappreciative, but that's why these countries like Brazil that they go nuts for
They
their
do.
bodybuilders.
India too
Uh,
is crazy. Like they just
but India doesn't have any open guys.
no, they don't.
It's yeah, they're crazy about men's physique, sure,
Yep.
but how excited can you get about some quarter turns? Like that's
I
it.
know.
You're not really doing much. Like I'm not saying anything against them, but I'm
No.
saying the battle that consists on stage of men's physique guys, no one is like, oh my god, Brandon Hendrickson is from your country. It's not going to happen. No
Yeah.
one's saying that,
Yeah.
especially the countries like Iran and India where they love monsters. They love
Hmm.
big guys. But right, so besides Iran, Brazil probably has
Yeah.
the
Hardcore.
craziest, the
Yeah.
most hardcore,
Yeah.
and some of these, and they're lucky enough that they have a couple shows. Some of these countries, fucking Honduras and Colombia,
Mhm.
Ecuador, Argentina, they don't have any people.
Mm-mm.
And are you telling me that they don't because there's no one genetically ever been gifted enough to do it in that area? Or did that genetically person just get into soccer? Or get
Mhm.
into a sport where they are probably more likely going to make a living or at least be able to get a free scholarship, for school. Where if I at least had some example from my country, he made it, this guy made it. I have good gyms in my area. I have a bodybuilding show that I can at least go attend, and maybe a guest poser will be there. And, I might be able to witness someone that I can't travel to America to go see. I think that that can change the course of someone's life
Mhm.
because it's easy for me to say on myself or people to talk about themselves, but there's a lot of people who have been to a show that didn't want to be a bodybuilder and they left thinking about it. And
Yeah.
no matter what, whoever put that show on, that promoter, they had to have they had to do a lot of research in that area. There's a lot that goes into putting shows in that area. There's a lot you
Yeah.
have to work with the NPC and working your way up and stuff like that. But no, what I'm saying is it takes a lot of work, and now you can change people's lives. That's cooler than winning trophies, and that's
Yeah.
something that I'd really like to do. I would love to be the first person to put a bodybuilding show in Cuba. I think that that would be
Wow.
insane. I think if we put gyms in that area, I
Yeah.
think we would be having a lot more people come out. Because look, the people that have came out of that country are like the top in baseball or
Yes.
boxing. They're the best.
Exactly.
So
Like you
that'd
go
be
into these
cool.
countries, yeah, you go into these countries and you find that talent. You could find the next Mr. Olympia in Chile or Peru or wherever you're, Ecuador. Like they're there. You gotta find them and you gotta tap into that potential. But we'll wrap it up here. I know it's been a long one, but it's been a really great, in-depth, thorough interview. And just want to end it off on, you know, 2024 Mr. Olympia. Um, got Derek, Hottie, Samson, Nick, Andrew, Amy Hunter's in there. Brandon Curry. Let's not forget Brandon Curry. Do you have a pick? Do you have a favorite going into
Uh,
this?
being being out in Dubai with Andrew. Andrew's my favorite. He's
Okay.
just it's very hard for me to see someone. I've seen people like, look, I saw Clarita on stage in our posing trunks, and he wowed me.
Yeah.
But in clothes in the gym, I'm not going to be wowed by a lot of guys. I'm just usually a lot bigger than them. So seeing someone who is just gigantic on every level and then has a better waist than you,
Hmm.
when you have people that you like, if you were a hater and you would hate them, that's like such a good bodybuilder. If I was like a real hater, like if I really was hoping people would not do well, like a lot of people do, and I would hate Andrew. I would hate him because he has no bad like rap. Who's he screwed over? Who's he ever treated wrong? Who has a bad experience with him? That's non-physical things about him. And then physically, he's as strong as some of these shorter guys with double the range of motion. He's just such a beast on every level.
Mm.
And then he's just going through it, enjoying it. Like I have not, I've that's the only person I've met that
Okay.
is like, because you can bring people on the show and you can ask questions like you asked me.
Yeah.
But if you ask them, do you love this? There's no one who really like loves it, and I would be doing this even if I wasn't making me any money. There's no way that I would be sticking needles into me every week if it wasn't going to make me money. Maybe
Yeah.
one, maybe do a TRT, but there's no
Yeah.
way you would be doing this to the T you are if you weren't doing this.
Mhm.
And Andrew would. Andrew absolutely
Yeah.
would still be lifting the same weight. He would be doing that. So just being close with him, he's my favorite. But I think the real question you're asking me is who's going to win.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I actually think that uh, I think Derek is going to be better than what he was last year
Yeah.
because people forget he only had like X amount of time where he was like, okay, fuck 212, and they were all in on trying to gain weight. So what is he going to look like now with almost double the amount of time? I think he's going to look better. But I just think that Hadi and whatever Hani figured out at the Arnold is just such a crisp look. It almost hurts your eyes
Mm.
that there's no way he's going to lose that because we all know that the Arnold him would have beat the Olympia Derek. And like I said, even though that's not going to be the same Derek come full circle, it's also not going to be the same Hottie
No.
uh, around the Olympia. So I would have them flip flopped.
Okay. So
Um,
Hottie winning, Derek second.
yeah,
Yeah. And then third, what's your take on Nick Walker? Are you a fan of his physique? Or are you like he's just a mass monster? Is he like could he be a Mr. Olympia? I remember Sean Ray saying like I don't think he represents what a Mr. Olympia physique looks like. That's his
who
opinion,
said
but
that? Sean,
Sean Ray.
Sean, you said Sean. Fuck Sean Ray.
Dude.
Fucking yeah. Yeah, like I don't I look, I was a big hater on Nick, in the beginning because he's
Mhm.
another person that until you meet him in person or you see him in person, it's very hard to understand the size of him because he's not
Mhm.
tall. You think of him as not that, big or
He's
he's
only
not that
5'6".
wide.
He looks. You think he's 5'6". It's crazy.
But yeah, in person, he's just a perfect person where he is doing what he's supposed to be doing. Because probably if he was doing some kind of powerlifting or strongman, he probably wouldn't be doing well. But
Mhm.
he does when he pops, when he hits his poses,
Yep.
he is bodybuilding. And that's why Sean Ray's a piece of shit, because Sean Ray thinks only his idea of bodybuilding is bodybuilding. We have to remember we have these champions, right, where they are the evolution of the sport, but it doesn't mean that we don't have also these like Branch Warrens,
Mhm.
and like right, like Dallas, these people that aren't the same mold that we think are the rules that Sean Ray would say is the rules of bodybuilding, but they are absolutely still just as important. They still gain just as much amount of muscle. So we're saying now the bodybuilding shows are going to be. That's what I really like about the shows today, even though I lose because of this reason is I really like that anyone can win as long as you're the most conditioned because
Yeah.
otherwise we're just having a genetic competition, and that's why a lot of guys in the past won because their shape was just so insane, but that's kind of also not fair. And then it's
Mhm.
you're going to make people like what if I mean I don't know how old Branch is, but he would have had to have been watching what Lee Haney. So
Yeah.
like,
When.
what if Branch is watching Lee Haney be the champion, and he's just like, man, I'm never gonna be able to look like that. All right,
Mhm.
I'm never gonna be that shaped. I'm just gonna go do construction. and we would have never
Yeah.
had some of these
Good
great
point.
bodybuilders. So Nick is a perfect example of that. He gives so much hope to people that he knows that, right, like, how do I not have the best genetics since Phil Heath, right? Nick whooped my ass. That means that anybody, it doesn't matter genetics or not, you can whoop anyone's ass. And I think for that, it makes him a great champion. And I honestly, someone posted, I hate these fucking AI things that they're
Mm,
doing with
yeah.
the physiques now, because people that don't go to shows
They don't
or in
know.
other countries, they
Yeah.
think that that's real. They're
Yeah.
not gonna know. But someone did do one of Nick with a small waist, and I've never seen one, and it almost what gave the definition of bodybuilding, where if he did look like that, he
Yeah.
would be beating these guys. It was really crazy. I mean, they're
Yeah.
getting good with the AI now too,
Yeah.
but that's not something he can fix. The only thing that he can fix is to make his legs bigger, to kind of make his waist seem a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
And how can you look at his age and say that that's not possible? I told Regan when I first met him, he can retire for 10 years and come back and he'll still be younger than me. Nick
Mm,
can Nick can go from now until the next 10 years and still be my age.
yeah.
And why? He can't make his legs bigger in that amount of time, or pull a Sean Roden. Remember, Sean Roden won because Phil was off. Sean is
Yeah.
my mentor in the sport.
Yeah.
But if Phil was Phil, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have mattered what Sean looked like. So you're telling me Nick's not going to be able to work on his legs for 6 more years, and
Hmm.
then catch someone slipping and he's not holding a sandal? Maybe.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well said. And you put a different perspective on it, and especially bringing that branch worn context into it. Yeah, you're right. If people don't have that role model to look up to, we may be missing a lot of great champions out there now that have competed and come second at the Olympia or very close to winning it. So good points. Wrap it up here. Any shout outs you want to give to your sponsors? I know you just resigned, so you got a lot of things going on, a lot of good vibes happening. So just give a shout out to anyone.
Yeah, trained by JP, Black Skull, Gym 80. I really appreciate. I really just appreciate everybody kind of in this area too. That's kind of really been just reaching out. I'm really weird about asking for help. It's just something I never want to do. So the people who get mad at me about not asking them for help,
Mm.
Joey Belt out here, manager Matt, even Jay has been very helpful. Justin Dees. I even ran into just Craig Goliath the other day at
Oh wow.
the LVAC. Right,
Yeah.
he's a Las Vegas native. Right, he's not even stepping on stage.
No.
And it was just really cool that even though we're not in the same circle, there's just this automatic respect,
Yeah.
and we kind of want to help people out. I also think too is I think we're also watching all these classic and men's physique guys get all the contracts because they're more streamlined. They're gonna, if I had a clothing line, I want to put one of them in my clothing rather than some monster that doesn't really fit it. So either way, they're making a lot of money now. Like these guys on their YouTube are banking. There's no way that you're going to see these Sam Soliks and you're not going to look at another open guy and hate on him. You can't.
Well, I was going to ask, I kind of skipped over that. Who do you think the most influential bodybuilder today is?
Most influential besides Arnold, obviously. Oh man, I don't think anyone's even asked anyone else that question before.
Yeah.
Because influential, it's not just
Yeah.
for competing. It's not just physique wise. Um, Man, it has to be Jay, right? Because
Okay.
Jay is the only person that you can watch and you can say, I don't want to look like him. I never wanted to look like Jay. He relates to a lot of people, but for myself, I wasn't going to be able to look like him. But I want to have the career like him. I want to get in. I want to have no bad. I didn't do anyone wrong. You're never
Hmm.
going to hear a story of me ever doing something wrong or wronging anyone. Not everyone likes me like they like Jay, but as long as you don't really have anyone who's like, oh, this person did this, because some people they do screw
Hmm.
people over, and even though you
Yeah.
maybe even win some shows, in the ends, nobody likes you because
Hmm.
you're a scumbag. You're a scumbag. So Jay got in, he didn't scumbag anyone, and now he's showing us that you have a plan B after competing. You can still make
Yeah.
money. You can take the money from competing and put it into other things. There's back in the day, and that's when my dad died poor. It was just this money's going to keep coming in. I'm Mr. Olympia. People are always going to want to book me. People are always going to want me, and that's not true. It's
Mhm.
really not, because as soon as it gets closer to that new 100 years where
Yeah.
new people are coming in, you're not important. So it's really cool to see someone like him. And I never was motivated by him. Like I watched his DVDs and stuff like that, but I'm never like, oh, I can't wait to look like Jay. Like I wanted to look like Flex Wheeler. Like
Yeah.
that's the kind of guys that I was trying to look like. But I would way rather have Jay's life than Flex's life, even
Mhm.
without the
Mhm.
sand nose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say him.
Okay. I was gonna say, or thought you might say, Sebum, just because of his reach, like the influential, like he's just in fact impacting so many people because he's got 25 million followers on Instagram or whatever crazy number it is. From that standpoint, right?
No,
But
no,
you're right.
yeah,
You
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm open bodybuilder in my head, and I'm always going to
Yes.
be thinking about myself. But also, too, I would say more than half of the people that are influenced by Bumstead are
Mhm.
going to do one show and then just stay on the boards for the rest of their life. I think people
Yeah.
who, which is great. I think everybody should just do one show. It should give you an automatic respect for bodybuilding and an
Yeah.
understanding. But how many people were not going to do bodybuilding and then saw him, and then now they're actually competing to either get their pro card or are pros? I don't think it's
Oh, I
that
see. I
many.
see
I
what you're
think
saying.
his
Mhm.
reach are for the general people who maybe to
Yeah.
get them into the gym, maybe
Yeah.
get them into training like a bodybuilder when they were more training like CrossFit or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think he's more influential to a general person.
Mhm.
But I would say I'm giving actual bodybuilders hope. There's no one who doesn't want Jay's career.
Yeah.
Mm,
He's the ultimate professional in the sport, from
yeah.
being on stage and being a businessman. So yeah, I agree with that
Mhm.
one. All right. Did you? I don't know if you mentioned Black Skull in there.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
Black Skull. Okay, good. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Well, no, man, I really do appreciate it. You come on the show, and good luck with your training and getting ready for your next show. And I know you said you wanted to get ready for the Arnold 2025, so hope we'll see you there too. And I mean, positive vibe, man. You're like, we're excited to see what you're going to be up to in the next few months and your training and your progress. So keep it up, keep doing what you're doing, man. And
Thanks.
positive vibes over to you, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, man. No, no, I really appreciate you too, because you don't make a lot of money from this,
No.
and I think you get some people like Tonio's interview that had to have
Yeah.
blown up for you. You know
Yes.
that was really good. So there are going to be instances like that where
Yeah.
it's worth it, but
Yeah.
the majority is you doing what you had to do with me, where it's like, how about this time? How about this time?
Yes.
And I always appreciate anyone who is patient with me, because
Yeah.
I'm the worst about doing shows, but I don't even want to do them anymore. I
Mhm.
hate talking about myself. I
Mhm.
want to do them where I come on and talk about the sport, maybe with some other people on a panel.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I wanted to say that I really respect your show,
Thank you.
because I think also, like I said with Jay, you're not doing any kind of gotcha questions, and you
No.
really do follow the people that you have on the show. I've noticed that you ask questions to them, like you had with me, where it kind of
Yeah.
catches them off guard, because
Yeah.
most of the time we get the same question, and I
Mhm.
hate it. I want to be respectful on shows, because I don't want to say like I already talked about that on another show. But when I watch the shows
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my god, he's gonna start talking about this again, sometimes I'm like fast forwarding,
Yeah.
and I hate
Yeah.
that people are gonna do that with me, because everybody wants to talk about Dubai and everybody wants to talk about my dad. So I just wanted to say that in your shows,
Mhm.
I really realized, especially like with mine,
Mhm.
you're asking things that you can only ask if you're really a fan, and
Yes.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, no worries, man. I appreciate it, and thanks for that. And definitely would love to have you back on in the future. I know you say you don't really like doing it. That's why I'm really grateful to have you on and have this much of an in-depth conversation with you, because it means a lot to me, because I'm a big fan. So appreciate it.
Thank
I'll
you.
see.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill it, and we'll do
Yeah,
another one soon.
yeah, appreciate it. All right, man. Well, we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Peace.